Another day of NFL free agency. You know what time it is. It's time for a breakdown of every signing that happened on Thursday, March 14th of 2024 NFL free agency. I'll give you my thoughts, my analysis, my reaction to each and every move. If you're looking for the trade of Sam Howell to the Seahawks or the signing of Curtis Samuel to the Buffalo Bills, I made two separate videos for those moves, so I will not be covering those in this video. But if you're looking for Devin White to the Eagles, or DJ Reader to the Lions, or Arik Armstead to the Jags, any of those moves and more will be covered in this video. Gronk spiked the like button. Don't forget in that comment section, whether you're here live or you're here after the fact, and let me know your thoughts on my thoughts about each and every free agency move for Thursday, March 14th. Let's say hello to the people in the chat. Make sure to get those likes up so more people can find this content. What's up, Singh? How you doing, my man? All right, where do we want to begin? Let's go. I think this one's going to be a little bit shorter than typical. There weren't as many moves. As free agency continues on, there are less and less moves to talk about. Metro SOS says, hey, awesome, bro. Can I have a cool shout out? What's up, Metro? How you doing, man? Let's begin with the trade from the Cardinals and the Falcons. How about that? I also have another move to talk about with the Falcons as well. So let's start there. And if you've never been here before and you're wondering, what is he doing? Basically how this works, I pieced together a live stream where I basically do a bunch of mini videos within one live stream. I pull up a couple of their Pro Football references, and then I go ahead and I talk about the players. So we're going to begin with Desmond Ridder for Rondale Moore, which happened earlier today, okay? A rare, and I'm talking extremely rare, player-for-player trade. The Atlanta Falcons send quarterback and last year's starter, Desmond Ridder, to the Arizona Cardinals to back up Kyler Murray. And in exchange for Ridder, the Falcons get shifty, small, quick receiver, Rondale Moore. An extremely rare quarterback for receiver trade. You almost never see these at all. Ridder gets a fresh start in Arizona to back up Kyler Murray, a guy that definitely at smaller stature, mobile quarterback, takes some hits in some awkward positions, certainly needs a backup. Ridder is very athletic. That is one of the aspects to his game that I think is a strength. And meanwhile, Rondale Moore has not worked out for the Cardinals. He's not been a very good player for them in the slot, and he could use a fresh start. So this is a fresh start for both of these players. Rondale Moore, I think, is an interesting one in Atlanta, given the fact that they run an offense that we've been talking about all offseason now. Zach Robinson's going to be the play caller. This is a Sean McVay offense. What does Sean McVay's offenses often feature? They often a lot of window dressing, right? Window dressing as in jet sweeps, fake jet sweeps, motions from slot receivers, shifty receivers. Rondale Moore could do that. He's really, really good at the jet sweep screen stuff. And he could also be pretty interesting in a lot of the condensed and tight formations where he's playing away from press coverage and not having to play, in the face of cornerbacks because he is smaller. It's hard for him to take on that contact. So I'm going to go back and forth when it comes to Moore and Ridder here and kind of give you my thoughts. So let's start with Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore last season had 40 catches for 352 yards, 8.8 yards per reception. And I note that number in particular because it's low. It's under 10, which is a pretty low number for a receiver. A lot of his catches are near or at the line of scrimmage. A lot of them are catches in screen game, RPOs, things like that. That's where he's mostly been utilized. He is yet to be unlocked down the field as a receiver. In 2022, he had the most catches or the highest yards per reception he's ever had, which was 10.1. He had a similar season though, 41 catches as opposed to 40, but he only played in 8 games. Okay, so this is the most catches per game that he's ever had. 41 in 8 games, 414 yards, and a touchdown. And then in his rookie season, he had 54 catches for 435 yards, 8.1 yards per reception, and 1 touchdown. He's also had 18 attempts as a rookie running the ball and 28 attempts last year, including 178 yards and a touchdown. So he's a hybrid receiver playmaker standing at 5'7", 180. That is very raw, underutilized, kind of potential for sure. But we'll see what he brings. I think at best, he's a number 3 in the NFL. I think at worst, he's probably a special teamer, right? So looking at his grading from Pro Football Focus, he graded as the 112th receiver in football last year, which is not very good. 755 snaps played. He graded 83rd in 2022, 49th in 2021. He played 489 slot snaps, 205 snaps out wide. He is born in 2000. He's very young. He's a former second-round pick out of Purdue. Rondale Moore will add quickness to the slot position of the Falcons. They also added Darnell Mooney to Drake London as well. So they're continuing to add some playmakers for Kirk Cousins. Now, in terms of Desmond Ridder is a quarterback that I have never personally been a huge fan of. Now, he's only been in the NFL for 2 years, but back evaluating him before Atlanta picked him, certain places and people and scouts were high on him, like Pro Football Focus, I remember, was pretty high on him because of certain statistics he had in college coming out of Cincinnati. Big guy, obviously, he's 6'3", 207, but he looks like he's about 6'5", 6'6". He's got the speed, he's got the ability to run, definitely feels like he can take a hit. I think he has a lot of off-the-field intangibles in terms of leadership, a good attitude, seems like a good guy. I think that's a lot of reasons why people liked him, including the Falcons when they picked him, and they ended up picking him in the 3rd round of the 2022 NFL draft. And if I recall correctly, that's the draft that wasn't very strong at the quarterback position. But he ends up going 2-2 as a starter in his rookie year and then 6-7 as a starter in his second year. But if you read into those numbers, I mean, those seem pretty good overall, right? 8-9 overall is not a bad quarterback, right? You would think. But honestly, it wasn't really because of him. He's had some pretty bad games. With that being said, statistically speaking, 64% last year, 2,836 yards, 12 touchdowns, 12 picks. Pretty even, 83.4 passer rating. So certainly feels like a backup quarterback, in my opinion, in the NFL. He did have 4 game-winning drives last year, mostly because the games were tight due to his defense and his running game. And at times he was able to make a throw to put them in position for the win for Young Ho over there, Young Wei Koo, to make the game-winning kick. In terms of his measurables of Pro Football Focus, Desmond Ridder was graded as the 38th quarterback in football, which is not very good. In terms of their grading, that is the worst quarterback in the NFL that qualifies in terms of their minimum snap percentage. So that's pretty bad. That's worse than Bailey Zappi. But in terms of ignoring snap minimum, he's ahead of quite a few players, including the player that he played with in Atlanta, Taylor Heineken. So there you go. He was at least better than that guy, which I guess you could say that. But again, Ridder is young. He's 24. He has a lot of experience in college. He has some experience starting in the NFL. And he's big. He's got tools to work with, a strong arm. He's got to refine his mechanics so his lower body is sloppy. Some of the things in terms of accuracy can be a little wild and things like that. But if he could take care of the ball, run a bit, lead the team, he could be a solid backup. And I don't think he'll ever be anything more than that, but a solid backup for Kyler Murray moving forward, which I think is something they needed, right? Similar to Josh Dobbs in a lot of ways, I would say. So Ridder for Rondale Moore, 2 players that need a fresh start. That was a big move early in the day. What's up to Highlighter? We got a Lions fan in the chat. We got Steelers Daniel Barry in the chat. He says evening. Highlighter says McNeil, Reader, Hutch, gonna go crazy. Yes, sir. We're going to talk about that. Give me a second here. Oh, I also want to touch on one thing when it comes to the Falcons as well. They also signed another receiver, another smaller receiver in terms of speed profile, and that's Ray Ray McCloud, who played for the 49ers last season. Ray Ray McCloud is mostly a returner. Last season, he served as the 49ers' primary punt returner, and a lot of people would ask, Mitch, how do you even know that? Well, because I was basically a 49er fan last year, so I do remember that. But in terms of his play at wide receiver, you're not going to get much. He's like a fourth receiver at best, probably more of a fifth receiver. He's got some speed to him, and he's played in Pittsburgh before as a returner, and again, a gadget receiver. He can handle a jet sweep at times. He can return the football. He can... He seemed to run some good out-breaking routes in San Francisco, like corner routes, out routes, things like that. So Ray Ray McCloud's another addition to the Atlanta depth chart. He's a little bit older, though, I would say, in terms of the guys. Like, he's definitely older than Rondale Moore. I want to say off the top of my head, he's like 28 or 29 years old, Ray Ray McCloud. So just looking at their depth chart, I would probably slot him in as the number 4, because they just signed him. So Drake London's the number 1, Darnell Mooney's the number 2, Rondale Moore would be the number 3. Ray Ray is probably returner / number 4, and then they also have Hodge, who's probably a better receiver than McCloud, but he doesn't bring the versatility to the table in terms of returning and stuff like that. So he'll probably make the team as a special teamer and a depth receiver. Ray Ray McCloud, another addition to the Falcons. Colin is in the chat. Coach says Lions and Texans big winners. Colin says, hi, Bears fan from Manchester, England. First time on here. Thank you so much, Colin, for tuning in, man. Hopefully you're subscribed. Hopefully you've Gronk spiked the like button. Hello, Colin. We will be covering a little bit of Bears news. I heard they signed a center, so we'll be covering that. Sam says, a lot of Eagles news. Go Birds. I talked about CJ yesterday. I'm actually probably going to release a video that combines what I'm going to talk about a little bit later with Devin White going to the Eagles and then CJ Gardner-Johnson as well. I'll probably release that as a separate video, but I'm going to talk about it here as well. So if you guys haven't caught on to that yet, when I hear a bit of news that comes up, sometimes I'll react to it and then I'll throw on some extra stuff that I've talked about it with those teams. If you guys have been paying attention, that's kind of what I've been doing, which I find has been pretty good. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed that. So let's mark down that we've talked about the Falcons and the Cardinals. Let's move on to the next one, which will go with our guy from Manchester here. Let's talk about the new center of the Chicago Bears, Coleman Shelton. Let me just turn his Pro Football Reference page up. Okay. It was only a 1-year deal, eh? Okay. The Chicago Bears have a new center. Coleman Shelton has been signed to a dirt cheap 1-year, $3 million deal. I believe I'm reading that correctly. I think that's the actual term. Coleman Shelton was the starting center of the Los Angeles Rams last season. So for the Chicago Bears to be able to get a player that started in a very similar offense, Shane Waldron, the new offensive coordinator for the Bears, comes from LA, can run similar protection, similar offensive line schemes, looking for inside and outside running schemes up front. Coleman Shelton was pretty successful there for LA, and I'm a little bit shocked that the Rams did not try to keep him personally. But he has signed with the Bears, and perhaps the Rams didn't want him back or wanted to look somewhere else with that money, or perhaps the Bears offered him a better deal. But the Bears are going to have a guy that has started 30 games in the past 2 seasons for Sean McVay's offense at 27 and 28 years old. So he's going to be 29 years old in July before this season. And he is going to be snapping the football, everyone thinks, to Caleb Williams, which is going to be pretty cool. So, taking a look at how he performed this past season, Pro Football Focus graded him as the 17th best center in the NFL with 1,171 snaps. He had The 7th most snaps in the NFL. Now, according to their grading, he had a clear deficiency, which was his pass blocking at 49.2, and his run blocking was 74.6, which is a strength of his. Definitely opening up holes for Kyren Williams last season, who was a sensation for the Los Angeles Rams. So, a little flawed as a player, but you can tell that he's definitely gotten better. You look at his snaps in 2019, at least according to the grading, he's gone up every year. And last year was his best season starting for a playoff team from the NFC West. He's 6'4", 299. So a smaller lineman, but he's pretty tall for a center. Obviously, he's got the movement skills to operate in the run game, but probably because of his size, is not great in terms of his anchor and pass protection. So as long as the Bears ask him to do similar things that the Rams asked him to do, and he's not being overwhelmed by some of the bigger defensive tackles in football, then they should be fine. But overall, when I watched the Rams offensive line play last year, I was extremely impressed with their protection, extremely impressed from the interior protection for most of their games. I thought that their offensive line played better last year than I felt it played, at least since that Super Bowl season in 2021. And, even then they kind of had some issues with drop back pass protection. But I felt like last year was pretty good. So the last 2 years, he's played 92% of the snaps when he was on the field in 13 games and 97 last year. So starting center for the Rams finds a new home with the Bears. The Bears got a new center. The Bears! What's going on? Lance, he says the Bears should trade back and then take Marvin Harrison Jr. at pick 3 or 4. Why would they do that? They need a quarterback. Don says Lions got a lot of flack till today. They got flack for Carlton Davis? Not from the BLV, Donnie. Not from the BLV. Edgar says Raiders. What's up, Edgar? How you doing, man? Do you think the Eagles should sign Justin Simmons? I absolutely do think they should sign Justin Simmons. From what I've heard, the CJ signing does not affect that possibility, but also, I don't know if they're going to be able to afford him at this point. They just signed Devin White. I don't know what's going on there. So, we'll see. I assume that Simmons is going to get a pretty good contract, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's 1 or 2 years, given that he's 30 now. So, he probably will get a max 3-year deal, but we'll see. He was a second-team All-Pro last year. Where do we want to go now? Do we want to go with the Lions, or do we want to keep the Lions fans hanging on here for a second? Maybe we will go with something a little bit different. Let's go with this one. I like this one quite a bit. Did anyone hear what Hayden Hurst actually signed for? Guys, if you haven't already, Gronk spiked the like button. Get those likes up. I'm going to try to find what Hayden Hurst actually signed for. All I know is that he signed. So maybe I don't have the money, but I guess it doesn't really matter at the same time. So let's talk about Hayden Hurst, who just signed earlier today to the Chargers, which is interesting. Okay. Thank you, Caesar. And shout out to Singh, who predicted Hurst to the Chargers right. I think I know why. The Los Angeles Chargers have a new starting tight end, Hayden Hurst, formerly of the Carolina Panthers and the Baltimore Ravens and the Atlanta Falcons and the Cincinnati Bengals. Wow, that's a lot of teams. Hayden Hurst is the long-haired, flowing ginger man that is great after the catch. If you're looking for a tight end that can create with the ball in his hands, hurdle a guy, make a guy miss, break a tackle, he is going to rejoin Greg Roman, the offense that he was a part of, I believe, early in his career as a member of the Baltimore Ravens, where he suited as really that number 2 tight end for the Ravens beside Mark Andrews, and was actually a first-round pick once upon a time in the 2018 draft, where he was the 25th overall selection. I think the highest tight end drafted. He is 30 years old now, 6'4", 245, runs well for his size. His best seasons of his career 27 years old, 2020, 56 catches, 571 yards, and 6 tutties in 2020 with Matt Ryan. And then in 2022, last year, not this year, but last year, 2023 was this year, so 2022 was the year before. You probably remember him watching him play on the Bengals. And he was pretty good that year. 52 catches, 414 yards in 13 games, 2 touchdowns. So Hayden Hurst, I think he's actually an upgrade, personally, over Gerald Everett. I think he's a better player than Gerald Everett. Maybe that's bold. I don't know. He didn't play that well last year with Carolina, but I kind of think that's a situational thing. He had 184 yards on 18 catches with 1 touchdown in 8 starts. But he played half the year. So he's dealt with some injuries at times. He certainly misses some games every year, 13, then 9 last year. But the beginning of his career was 12, 16. So, I mean, some injuries. But I actually like him more because when you can get the ball in his hands, he's able to do things with the ball. He's also just pretty athletic, can block a little bit. And I think that's what Greg Roman will probably like. He's been in the system. He can block a bit. He's athletic. So all those things come into play in terms of that offense. But I think definitely we've seen Justin Herbert make tight ends better throughout his young career. I thought he did that with Gerald Everett. And a lot of times he just throws the ball and it sticks to the guy's chest. They also signed Will Dissly, I believe. So they've signed 2 tight ends now, which is an important position in Greg Roman's offense because of the amount that they like to run the ball. They like to have 2-3 tight end formations. So signing another one, they have Donald Parham, they have Will Dissly, and now they have Hayden Hurst. All slightly different guys. Hurst is probably the most athletic. Donald Parham is the guy that can go up and get the ball. He's about 6'7", and he's a pretty good receiving threat. And Will Dissly is like an all-around good tight end that's mostly a blocker. So, yeah, and then they brought in Gus Edwards. So they're kind of finding Greg Roman's guys to complement the passing game. They moved on from Mike Williams. Excited to see what they end up doing. I'm impressed that the Chargers were actually able to keep Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. I didn't think they were going to be able to do that. But Mike Williams is a free agent now, so they're expecting bigger things out of Joshua Palmer and definitely Quentin Johnston, who appears to be a bust. But we'll see. I don't know. The 3 tight end formations are going to be interesting with Justin Herbert pulling the trigger. That's going to be an interesting dynamic there in LA. Hayden Hurst signs with the Chargers. All right. So we've got that one done. Don't sleep on Minshew. I'm not sleeping on Minshew, bro. Did you see that CTESPN from Antonio Brown? He said that Minshew looks like Jesus, and I just started laughing. Oh, man. Don versus Cedric Wilson, ex-Miami wide receiver to the Saints, 2 years. Yeah, I just saw that. We'll talk about that. Panthers signed a couple guys. So we'll talk about that. Vikings signed Jerry Tillery and Trent Sherfield. Let's go with one of the D tackles. Let's start with Arik Armstead, then we'll go to DJ Reader. How does that sound? All right, so Arik Armstead signed with the Jags. Let me pull up their depth chart. Gardner Minshew is Jesus. Is Gardner Minshew the most liked quarterback in the NFL? Is that a fact? Is there a more liked quarterback in the NFL than Gardner Minshew? Question of the day. I haven't talked about Fuller yet. Okay. Let's talk about Arik Armstead. Trent Baalke's got his guy. Arik Armstead returns to Baalke in Jacksonville. It's a 3-year, $51 million contract for the former 49er. A monster in the middle is Arik Armstead. standing at 6'7", 290 pounds, one of the premier edge, D-tackle, dual threat players over the past half decade, is now going to be a Jag. And if Jaguar fans are wondering what this guy is, think Calais Campbell 2.0. It's exactly what Arik Armstead is for this defense. A veteran player who's accomplished a lot, who is massive, who can play edge and interior. That's what Arik Armstead is. He's not the legit pure pass rusher, I feel like, at the peak that Calais Campbell was. I think Campbell is maybe a tier above him in terms of, I would say, Calais Campbell is Hall of Fame, and Arik Armstead is probably Hall of Very Good. But Arik Armstead is first round, 17th overall in the 2015 draft, taken by Balky in San Francisco. He has played, now 30 years old. I believe he's going to be 31 in November 15th. There it is. Now, here's the problem with Armstead, which is why I think the Niners got rid of him. I think he has some underlying injury problems. He's had the last 2 seasons where he's played 21 games, which obviously you could play, he's played 9 and 12, so that you could play 34. So he's played 21 out of 34 possible games, which is probably something that the Niners didn't like given the amount of money that they were paying him, right? So he is, though, a guy that won't really be indicated his value by the sack total or by like a stat total, because he does so many of the little things well for the Niners. That set the edge on the edge when he's been asked to do that. That's penetrate the middle and push the pocket up the middle when he's been asked to do that. That's run stunts up front due to his length and size to be able to get guys like Nick Bosa free up the middle, things like that. He has once had a 10-sack season. That was in 2019 when the Niners probably had, one of the best defenses of recent history, in my opinion, the 2019 49er defense. And he's been a part of many great defenses, whether it's been the 2021 Niners, 2022 Niners, 2019 Niners, or in the playoffs. He's been really, really good as well. You look at his playoff resume. This year, he had 1 sack and 11 tackles, which he had the most tackles of his career in the playoffs. He had 2 sacks in 2022, 3 sacks in 2021, and 2 sacks in 2019. Every single time, and that's in 3 games, every single time, by the way, he has played in the playoffs. He's played in 3 games every single time. He's had 3 sacks once, 2 sacks once, 2 sacks once, and 1 sack once. And then 8 to 11 tackles every single time. So he's an impact player in big settings, in big games. I do think he was playing injured last year. If I'm not mistaken, he was playing with like a torn meniscus or something. If I'm not mistaken, I think that was him, not Hargrave. I might have got him mixed up with Hargrave. I think Hargrave was playing with a torn thumb ligament, and I think Armstead was playing... Yeah, so Armstead tore his meniscus in his right knee throughout the 3-game postseason, and he was playing with that injury during the playoffs. So this is a tough mother you-know-what. But, that's going to wear and tear at 30 years old. So it's a matter of money, and it's a matter of making decisions, and the Niners obviously didn't want to get rid of a team legend in Arik Armstead, but Jacksonville pounced on him, and when you look at how he fits within the defensive line, now you've got a pretty formidable interior 3 with Arik Armstead, Devon Hamilton, and Roy Robertson Harris. The question is going to be, what style of defense is Jacksonville going to play? Because Armstead, for like the past 5 years, has been playing in a wide 9 front, but he was drafted to play in a 3-4 defense. So that's the interesting thing. Like, he was drafted to play in kind of a 3-man front sort of defense, but he's been playing in the wide 9 for so long. So it's kind of interesting to see how they'll use him, dating back to his early career. So when he did play in that defense, he was in his rookie season, the 19th best interior defensive lineman in football. 2016, he had a rough season, going 100th out of 125. That's when the Niners were just an awful team, though. Drafted out of Oregon, by the way, one of the rare big men from Oregon. 49th out of 108 in 2017 and 26th out of 104 in 2018. So Shanahan got there in 2017 or 2018. 2017. So yeah, there's not a lot of sample size, but his rookie season, he was 19th. Last year, he was the 5th best pass rusher from interior defensive linemen in football, but he struggled a bit against the run, 75th out of 137, 16th overall grade from Pro Football Focus. He's graded inside the top 17 4 of his past 5 seasons, including 5th in 2019, where he's one of the best players at his position in the NFL. So, Arik Armstead. The question is, how much longer can he keep up the elite play? He's been a very good player for a very long time. Josh Allen is there. He's certainly going to help. I'm certainly going to help out Trayvon Walker. I like Roy Robertson-Harris. And really, when you look at Roy Robertson-Harris and Arik Armstead, they're very similar sizes. They're actually the same age. Roy Robertson-Harris is, I think, 6'5", 290. He might be taller than that, actually. And Armstead is 6'7", 290. So they're almost the exact same size and they'll play pretty much the same position. So Armstead is now a Jacksonville Jag. All right, next up, we're going to talk about DJ Reader. So Lions fans, stay with me here. Gronk, spike the like button, guys, if you haven't already. Edgar says, do you think that the Niner window is slowly closing despite a weak NFC? I don't think it's closing quite yet. And here's my take on the 49ers. Obviously, you guys know I'm a big Shanahan guy, so it is what it is. But I think when you have a coach that's that good, I don't think your window truly ever closes. I think when you have a Kyle Shanahan as your coach, I think your window is open as long as he's coaching the team. I honestly think that. I think he is that good of a coach. I think he's a Hall of Fame coach. So, and one of the best of this era, especially. So, unless his offense or his way of being or his offensive philosophy or football philosophy somehow becomes outdated, I don't think the Niners are going anywhere, regardless of who they have on their team, because I think he's that good of a coach. Now, that being said, if Brock Purdy can continue to improve, that would obviously help their odds. But you look at their football team right now, I mean, it's still as stacked as it pretty much was last year. It's pretty much the same team on paper right now, and they have a draft where they have about 12 to 13 draft picks. There is a team, though, that is going to rival them in the NFC, and we're going to talk about that team right now, and that is the Detroit Lions. Let's talk about what the Detroit Lions were able to do with DJ Reader. So let's pull up DJ Reader's stuff. Okay. When did he get hurt? Felt like he got hurt earlier last year than he did, I guess, but what's the... Hold on a sec. Quad. All right. Where's the contract? 2 years, 27.25. The Detroit Lions have signed a big man for the middle of their defense, DJ Detroit Reader. DJ Reader has signed a 2-year, $27.25 million deal. And on paper, I don't know if it's because it's a 2-year deal or what, but it feels like it is cheaper than I would have anticipated for a player that is as good in one aspect of the sport as you could potentially be. DJ Reader is one of the NFL's premier run stuffers in the entire league, in football, period, okay? And that's what he has been. DJ Reader is still a young football player as well. He is, I guess he's getting a little bit older. He's 29, but he doesn't even feel that old. That's what I would say. 6'3", 335 pounds. Woo! He is a beast. Okay, don't expect sacks out of DJ Reader. He only had 1 last year, and the most he's ever had is 2.5. But he can blow up offenses. And this is one of those players that only a true fan that watches this team will really get a good feel of how good DJ Reader is, because you'll constantly be seeing the running back have to like maneuver around this massive like hole in the offensive line where this big human is just pushing back two people into the backfield. That is essentially what DJ Reader is. Whenever you watch a stretch run and Derrick Henry's trying to bounce it outside and there's a big like just caving in of the offensive line, that is DJ Reader. And that's what the Bengals have been able to do over the past couple of years because of him. He started his career in Houston, where he was a very good player, but he has since gone to Cincinnati and become a key figure in a defense that was able to get to the Super Bowl in 2021, a defense that was one of the most timely and clutch in the NFL. And it was because of players like DJ Reader, who could be scheme specific, who could be game plan specific, could take away what an offense did best, whether it was the run or the pass. And Reader was very much a big part of the run game there in Cincinnati's defense. And when they missed him big time. I mean, when he got hurt, they were in trouble. When he was not playing, they were in trouble. So his impact will be felt on the Bengals. They have since signed other players, but in terms of snap percentages, he's not a guy that plays every snap and is better in a defense that rotates because he is so big. I mean, he's 6'3", 335 pounds. He's not going to be on the field every single snap of the game. I think the Lions would prefer if he were not on the field on, like, let's say 3rd and 10. He probably won't be on the field on 3rd and 10, but 3rd and 1, he'll be on the field. 2nd and 8, he'll be on the field. 1st and 10, he'll be on the field. So he'll be on the field about 70% of the time. When you look at snap percentages, he has played 58 last year, 60 the year before, 59, 73 in 2020, 61. So 73 was the most he's ever played, 59, 60, 58, which might have a reason why the contract maybe seems lower than typical for him. I think his contract with the Bengals was a little bit bigger, just off the top of my head. But looking at his grading, he was the 11th best interior defensive lineman according to PFF's grading last year, which is a very good grade. Aleem McNeil was 86.8, 7th best interior defensive lineman. So you have, according to PFF, not me, but according to PFF, you have 2 of the 11 best interior defensive linemen in the NFL on your defensive line now. And DJ Reader did actually have one of his better pass rushing grades of his career last year, 79.1, which was actually better than McNeil's, despite McNeil, I think, having 5 sacks to Reader's 1. So just shows you that their grading isn't all about the sacks. But you look at his grades, and he's pretty much always been a good player according to their charting. As a rookie, 35th. Then you go 26th, 28th, 8th, 42nd, 9th, 6th, 11th. With the Bengals, he's been one of the 11 best interior defensive linemen every year. 9th, 6th, and then 11th. And yeah, I mean, former Clemson Tiger. He ran a 5.33 in the 40. That is so slow. That's so slow. Don't expect him to catch anybody in a race. But the other thing that I think is underrated about Reader is he's going to be able to push the pocket. I think that's one thing that he is good at is just straight bull rush, just taking an offensive lineman and just bullying him back into a quarterback's lap and then allowing others around him to thrive. So he's one of those guys, like, he is very beneficial to edge players. He's very beneficial to like a Trey Hendrickson, right? Where it's hard to double team Hendrickson all the time because DJ Reader is such a beast that it takes, 2 at all times to have eyes on DJ Reader pushing the pocket, because you don't want that guy to immediately get into the lap of your quarterback, especially against pocket passers. And what I'm thinking of here is I think this is an extremely beneficial signing against the 49ers in particular, because the weakness of their offense is their interior 3. Their weakness of their offense is the interior of their offensive line. The weakness of their offense, you have to be able to stop the run against the 49ers without having to commit a ton of assets to stop the 49ers. So that's another thing. If you want to beat the 49ers, this is a signing that will help you do that. Get beefier, get bigger up front. I was wondering at first why they would sign DJ Reader, just because, like, Aleem McNeil to me was, like, he's a really good player, and, you know, like, I kind of felt it was a little bit redundant because I felt like the strength of his game had been run defense overall, McNeil, and he's good at both, but I still feel he's a better run defender than he is a pass rusher. That being said, whenever you can improve your defensive line and you're not breaking the bank for a player, I think that's always a good idea. Like, I'm a believer in spend on the defensive line as much as you can. I think you need a great front four. The better your front four can be, you know, the easier it is for your back end and the better your defense can be. And if you can dictate the front four, dictate the offensive and defensive lines, you're very likely going to win the game. So, and that's oftentimes what contenders and championship teams have, is a great defensive line. You know, you look at Aiden Hutchinson, who's one of the best edge players in football. I think they could still use a compliment to him, because I look at their pass rushers, and James Houston is kind of like their rotation rusher. He's pretty good at that. Josh Paschal, they have hopes for as a second-round pick in 2022, but he hasn't really turned into much. Marcus Davenport, they signed. We've talked about that. He has a lot of upside, especially in a defense that he's already played in, which is fascinating. If he can stay healthy, he has never really proven that he can. John Kaminsky is okay. But now that you've added DJ Reader, I think that what it can do as well is it can make you dominant against the run to the point where you're able to put offenses in uncomfortable positions on second and third down, to where you can send some pretty exotic and elaborate pressures and then be able to get off the field through pressure. And then adding a guy like Carlton Davis to your secondary is going to add a physical man-to-man corner on the outside that can disrupt the rhythm and the timing of a receiver to be able to correspond with the rush up front. So I think those two things play together well. So for the Lions, I think their roster's looking really good right now. It's one of the best in the NFL. I think they need to probably look at receiver still, especially with Josh Reynolds being a free agent. The left guard position is certainly a question mark, and I still think they could use more corner help personally. But I think this signing is a big signing. I think this makes them absolutely a better team, and DJ Reader is going to be a big help to them. Diving a little bit deeper in terms of any of the advanced stats, let's see if we can find some stuff on DJ Reader in terms of pressures and run stops and stuff like that. Let's take a look at some pressure stats. Let's see if they'll load this up for me. Okay, pretty slow here. Nope, not wanting to do it. What does Pro Football Reference have? 10 pressures last year, 6 knockdowns. His 6 knockdowns was the second most of his career. 10 pressures was the second most of his career. Pass rushing. So let's see. His grade was a 79.1, which was 14th in the NFL. He had 34 pressures, according to Pro Football Focus. They both Pro Football Reference and Pro Football Focus take different way. I don't know what they do different, but it's different. I don't know. Actually, his productivity at 6.1 was pretty good. It's not terrible. So yeah, I mean, he probably had one of his better overall pass rushing grades last year. But all I know is the Bengals are going to miss him, and all I know is the Lions are going to benefit from his presence, both in the run game and in the pass rushing game. But don't expect him to be on the field every single snap of the game. He's not an Aiden Hutchinson workhorse quite at this rate. But you don't want him to either. So DJ Reader signs with the Lions for 2 years, $27.25 million. Okay, that's DJ Reader. Let's go to who's next. You want to do Kendall Fuller there? We'll do Kendall Fuller, then we'll do Devin White. Okay. Gronk spike the like button, guys, if you haven't already. What's up, Caesar? How you doing, brother? Jacob says Snead is indeed going to the Titans. Deal is about to be confirmed. Are you dead serious? Let me check that. The Patriots are, somebody sent me, the Patriots are considering trading for Justin Fields. I mean, I wouldn't hate it, but I wouldn't really love it either. I do not see the L'Jarius Sneed stuff. Where did you see this? Highlighter says, all I'm happy about is the Chiefs still haven't gotten a receiver. That is pretty funny, isn't it? They're going to draft Xavier Worthy, aren't they? Okay. Let me check something. What was I going to check? Kendall Fuller. The Dolphins. How do they keep getting this cap space? What is going on? The Miami Dolphins have signed a very good, reliable veteran corner, Kendall Fuller, one of the many Fullers in the NFL. 2 years, $16.5 million is a lot cheaper than I would have expected. Maybe he had a preference in free agency, and that preference was Miami. Miami moved on from Xavier Howard this offseason, which now that they've signed Kendall Fuller, I think honestly that's a pretty savvy move. That being said, it depends on how they're going to play defense and what coverages they're going to play. I wouldn't expect Kendall Fuller to be the man-to-man coverage corner or the press corner that Xavier Howard was, but he is an excellent zone corner. I would say he is one of the best in the NFL. He is very savvy, very versatile, and a pro. I mean, he's been around. He's played slot. He's played outside. He was Washington's by far best corner last season, grading 7th in the NFL by Pro Football Focus with an 83.1 grade. He had an 82.8 coverage grade, which was up there for one of the best in the NFL. That is 9th in the NFL. His run defense grade was also excellent at 17th. His best season of his career was, I believe, with the Chiefs in 2017. He graded as the 3rd best corner in the NFL, but he graded 3rd in 2021, just a couple seasons ago, and 15th in 2022. So PFF loves him. 5'11", 198, drafted in round 3 from 2016. 952 of his snaps last year were played out wide, but that hasn't been the case for his entire career. I remember early in his career with the Chiefs, he played in the nickel position. I think earlier with Washington, he played in the nickel position, depending on who they've had on their team. At times, he's been able to make that switch, which is a good thing for Miami, because it felt like whenever Howard was down or Ramsey was down, they had to switch around their secondary last year, and whenever Kohu had to move to the outside, he was terrible. So, I think it's a good move, and it also allows you the ability to have Cam Smith, who could maybe come into the perimeter as well, who's a second-round pick from 2023. So the fact that you have Jalen Ramsey on one side, Cam Smith on the other side, and then Kendall Fuller, who could play either spot, is a good thing. So it enables you to play whoever your 3 best corners are, and then have another, sub at all times, basically. So I think that's a good thing in terms of that versatility. And diving deeper into his statistics, Kendall Fuller played 15 games last year, 79 tackles, which was the 2nd most of his career. He had 2 picks and 9 passes defensed. These past few years, he's always gotten his hands on the football. Last year, he had 3 picks and 2 for touchdowns. He had 13 passes defensed, 16 the year before that, 11 the year before that. So he's always constantly gotten his hands on the ball. And these last 2 years, 5 picks. In the last 4 years, he's had 10 picks. So he averages about 2 a year. But yeah, good, just a good player. A good player that really doesn't get talked a lot about. Last season, his passer rating was not very good according to Pro Football Reference, 120.4. That was because of 9 touchdowns that were allowed in his coverage, which doesn't correspond to his coverage grade. So I wonder where the problem is there in terms of Pro Football Reference and Pro Football Focus. That's why I like to check all these different things. The year before that, it was 87.1, 95.9, 84.1, 86.2. So, yeah. And then in terms of being available, he's mostly been healthy throughout his career. 14 games, 16, 17, 15. So he misses maybe 1 or 2 games a year, but overall has been pretty good for a corner. They can get a lot of nagging hamstring and groin injuries and things like that. Last year, he played over 1,000 snaps, 1,021. The year before that, he played 1,031, 99%. The year before that, he played 1,004, 97%. The year before that, he played 893, which is 99%. So he plays a lot. He's on the field. And that's always a good thing. So he was Pro Football Focus's second team, by the way, all pro last year in 2023, if you like that sort of thing. But yeah, I just know that he's a smart corner, really good in zone. Don't expect him to lock people up in man coverage. He's not got the best size, but he's got good enough size. He doesn't have the best speed, but he's got good enough speed. But he reacts to the ball really well, and he'll never be out of place in a defense, and he can play a bunch of different spots. So Kendall Fuller is a really nice signing for the Dolphins. Gives them a very nice number 2 to Jalen Ramsey for 2024. I was a bit concerned about Xavier Howard leaving, but now I don't feel as bad. All right. That is Kendall Fuller. So we're going to do Devin White next for my guy Big Al. I don't know if Big Al heard. I wonder if he has his Adam Schefter tweets on. Guys, Gronk spike the like button if you haven't already, baby. We got 38 people in here, only 19 likes. Keenan Allen to the Bears? Are you for real? Are you for real? Oh my goodness! Breaking news on the BLV. Chargers receiver Keenan Allen has been traded to the Bears. The Chicago Bears, per Jay Glazer, have traded for the all-time great Charger, Keenan Allen. It is time to bear the mother down. Keenan Allen is going to be catching passes from a USC Trojan. I see what you did there. Keenan Allen and DJ Moore? Woo! The Bears to the Super Bowl? What? Oh my goodness. Talk about a move by the Chicago Bears. They're going all in for 2024 and beyond. This is crazy. He is still a great player. I've been critical at times for Keenan Allen in terms of just his speed, because he's just not the most athletic, fastest guy in the world. But man, has he not been one of the best route runners in football we have seen over the past decade. He is 31 years old and has spent a lot of his career, his entire career with the Chargers. A lot of it in LA, but also in San Diego. So I wonder if there was any sort of relationship between Keenan Allen and Caleb Williams. I don't know. Just throwing it out there. Could be a possibility. But looking at his career, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 1,000-yard seasons under his belt. This past year, he caught 108 balls, guys. 108 catches, which is actually the most of his entire career. And he only played 13 games, and he had 108 catches. He had 1,243 yards, which is the second most of his career, in 13 games. That's almost 100 yards per game. By the way, that's 95.6 yards per game. 11.5 yards per reception, which is actually better. That's a better number, which is one of the areas I've been critical of Keenan Allen, is yards per reception. 11.5 is a better number than he's had, his best number, since 2018, when Phillip Rivers was the quarterback, okay? So it's been a while since he's had that yards per reception number. He had a 72% catch percentage, which means he's a very reliable target. And he's still just a super savvy, nuanced player that, is extremely quarterback friendly. If you want to make your young quarterback successful, you give him Keenan Allen. You give him a slot receiver that's going to route you up and is going to find the open space against zone coverage. And that's going to be there on third down to move the chains. So now you're talking about DJ Moore, a do-it-all player, screen to the house, deep ball to the house, deep route runner, but good underneath, good yards after catch, combined with one of the best route runners in the NFL from the slot position primarily. And you're talking about one of the scariest duos in the NFL playing within a Shane Waldron offense that is a Sean McVay variant. This is going to be fun. This is going to be fun. This is like Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen. Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods. That's what it is. That's what it is. Okay? So, looking deeper at his numbers, 847 yards before contact last year, 396 yards after catch last year. So he had the third most yards after catch since Pro Football Reference was taking it of his career, only behind 2018 and 2020. And in terms of yards before catch, he had the most of his NFL career, which means he was getting vertical a little bit more last year than he typically was. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that Mike Williams was injured. Okay? But I expect him to resume a more of an underneath intermediate role for this offense. I think DJ Moore will take a lot of the deeper stuff within the offense. That's at least my expectation. Now, don't expect Keenan Allen to be breaking people's ankles and running past them in the open field. But what you can count on is a guy that's going to catch it every time, a guy that's going to be able to separate and get open, a guy that can make a lot of contested catches. He is actually very good in that department at 6'2", 211. He's bigger than I think people think. But his grade this season, 11th best receiver in football according to PFF, 86.3 grade, 87.4 receiving grade, a 64.1 run blocking grade, which is actually pretty good. Now, the one thing you have to be concerned about with Keenan Allen is his history of injuries. He's always had a history with injuries, and he is a little bit older. So that's the one downside of this move is 13 games, 10 games the last 2 years. So 23 out of a possible 34 games. So he's missed 11 games. Some of that is circumstantial, but that is his biggest weakness, is availability throughout his career. Now, he did have a stretch from 2017 through 2021 where he played 16, 16, 16, 14, and 16 games. It's been these last 2 years where he's been worn down. But at the beginning of his career, 14 games, then 8-1. He had that 2-year stretch, 2015, 2016, where he got hurt a lot. But he's always been a great receiver. Dating all the way back from his rookie season where he had 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns, he's never really dropped off at all. He's just been super consistent. In many ways, he's rivaled a Mike Evans in terms of consistency. He's been in the NFL since 2013 at 21 years of age, right? And he has been an 1,000-yard receiver 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. And he's probably would have gotten 1,000 yards if not for missing a couple of games, in those other seasons. So it's a really, really good player. He has a specific role in an offense, though, at this point in his career. And I think he's going to fit it perfectly for Chicago. And I think what he also does is he can play with detail, he can play with timing, but he can also play with just instincts, which I think is going to be good for a Caleb Williams because he can do both of those things. Now, he is going to end up going to... I don't know what the deal is. I don't know what the deal is, bro. I can't see it. I don't know what the deal is. 4th round pick. Okay, that's what it is. Adam Schefter. Chargers are trading wide receiver Keenan Allen to the Bears for a 4th round pick. Now his contract, I'm going to have to look at his contract. Keenan Allen's contract. I mean, it kind of makes sense. They need cap space. They're rebuilding in a way. The Chargers are. New regime, new general manager, new head coach, new offensive coordinator. Keenan might not exactly fit the idea of their new offense. There's reasons why they would do this. They have the 5th pick in the draft, which they could use on a Marvin Harrison Jr. or a top receiver. So they could give a receiver to Justin Herbert. So Keenan Allen contract. Yeah, so Schefter said it was a 4th round pick. It must come with a hefty price if it's only a 4th round pick, although he is 31, 32 years old. So I get it, but like at the same time, it must be because of the contract. Sport Track is glitching on Keenan Allen's contract. So over the cap is going to save me. So 2024. Keenan Allen has a base salary of $18 million. A $5 million roster bonus, 0 guaranteed salary, $34 million cap number. Wow. Okay. He has a $34 million cap number. Dead money is $11 million, so we'll have to see how the contract works out for Keenan Allen. I'm sure those things are going to filter through. But that is crazy. That is crazy. So let's just take a look at the Bears roster right now. Just to continue to talk about this Keenan Allen move, which is breaking news. DJ Moore. Keenan Allen. Then they really don't have a lot else at wide receiver. Tyler Scott. Velus Jones Jr. Zamora, what are you talking about in the chat? They just signed a center, Coleman Shelton. Their offensive line is in good shape. Nate Davis, Darnell Wright, Braxton Jones, Tevin Jenkins, Coleman Shelton. They have their offensive line. They've got their 2 receivers. They need a 3rd receiver. They've got 2 tight ends, Gerald Everett, another Charger, and Cole Kmet. They've got their quarterback coming in the 1st overall pick. They're going to get draft capital back for Justin Fields, probably a 5th. Or a 4th. DeAndre Swift is their new running back with Khalil Herbert and Roshan Johnson. Their defense is in good shape. Montez Sweat, Andrew Billings. They need a D tackle. They might need a D end. DeMarcus Walker is currently one of the starters. TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds are the linebackers that they signed last year. John, I'm probably going to take this after I'm done and upload it separately as a video, but yeah, we'll see. Jalen Johnson, Tariq Stevenson, Kyler Gordon, and then Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker are the safeties. So, I mean, the team's overall in good shape. They just need like 1 edge rusher, 1 D tackle, which they have a 1st round pick, 9th overall, which they're probably not going to spend on a receiver now because they just got one. So, I mean, this team's going to be real good right away. If this team is not real good right away, then I don't know what to tell you. Like, Caleb Williams might not be the guy. If they're not really good right away, Caleb Williams honestly might not be the guy, which is crazy to say. But Hot Take says, Beauty, well, I got your back. Love the streams, bro. Thank you, man. Thank you. Appreciate your help, though. Simon says, for a 4th round pick, did the Bears do a fleece? Not necessarily. I think it's a great move for them, so don't get me wrong. But it's a lot of money. His contract's like $34 million in terms of cap number, which is an insane number for a receiver. So I don't know how that's going to work out in terms of how much money the Chargers are going to keep and how much money the Bears are going to get and how that's exactly going to work out. But it's his age, it's his contract, it's stuff like that. That's why. And honestly, the Chargers needed to move cap space, and they decided to keep Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa instead of their receivers, and it feels like the Chargers are rebuilding a little bit. They'll still be competitive because they have Justin Herbert, and I'm sure they'll use that 5th pick on a receiver. So, Yeah. There's different reasons to this stuff. I mean, in terms of the value, yeah, obviously, like, Keenan Allen's a better player than a 4th-round pick. There's no doubt about it, but there's a lot of different reasons for it. It's contract, it's age, it's injury history. There's a lot of different things. You're never going to get more than a third, I would think, for Keenan Allen. I just couldn't see that happening, just because of all those different factors. But yeah, obviously, great addition to the team. I mean, you look at this team, man. Look at the offense. They've got an offensive line. They got Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift, Gerald Everett. They got DJ Moore. They got Khalil Herbert. They got Cole Kmet. Geez. Young tackles. Young guards. They just traded for a center in Ryan Bates and added and signed a center. So they've got competition at center. I mean, my goodness. This offense is going to be fun with Shane Waldron. So we'll see what they're able to do there. But yeah, Keenan Allen is a bear. That's insane. That's insane. I didn't think that was actually going to happen. Patriots fans were like, oh, we could get Keenan Allen. I'm like, honestly, as a Patriots fan, I didn't really want that. But honestly, I don't think the Patriots are in the position the Bears are in. The Bears have a lot of things already. Like, the Bears are not out there like looking for a tackle and looking for a QB and looking for another receiver. Like, I don't know, man. The Bears, like, the Vikings chose a good year to not sign Kirk Cousins. I'll say that. Because the Packers and the Lions are already good. And now the Bears got Keenan Allen, so. So they cut Mike Williams. They restructured Bosa and Mack. And they traded Keenan Allen. That's what the Chargers have done. Their current receiver room is Quentin Johnson, Josh Palmer, Darius Davis. That's not very good. Could Marquise Brown go to LA? Possibly. But if you're going to cut these receivers, why would you spend cap space on receiver, to be honest? Like, I think if I'm the Chargers, which I don't know if anyone has updated their cap space yet. If I was the Chargers, I would spend all of the possible money I could on defense. I would load the defense up. Because I think their offense is in relatively good shape outside of receiver. Like, I think they're fine. Obviously, Herbert's going to elevate everybody, so you have that advantage. But you also have Slater at left tackle. I don't know what's going on with Corey Linsley, so I guess that's a question. Yeah, man. But I would spend on defense. Secondary, cornerback, D tackle. I would pick a receiver 5th and then go from there. But Harbaugh's going to do what Harbaugh wants. All right? Most absurd hot take of all time. Keep Fields. Trade the first pick to Washington for McLaurin and Josh Allen. Give Fields the best receiving core in the NFL. I think it would be such a waste if they had Fields as the quarterback. Personally. It would be such a waste. Oh, we got 55 people in here. Gronk spike the like button, guys. If you have any questions about the Keenan Allen move, let me know. But I've pretty much gone over everything I can really think of at the moment. So, oh, Jonathan Allen. Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad, but... Okay, let's talk about a couple more things before I get off air. So, we've got a couple more signings I want to discuss. But if you have anything about... Uh-oh. Are you serious? We've got breaking news again. Okay, breaking news on the BLV. Wide receiver Hollywood Brown has signed with, drumroll please, the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs have signed Marquise Brown. Now the contract, we will find out here in a bit. A 1-year deal. A 1-year deal. I don't know how much, but a 1-year deal. Marquise Hollywood Brown is a... Hold on a second. Where's my sound effects? Get my sound effects out. Get my sound effects. All right. Marquise Hollywood Brown is going to join the other Hollywood star. Doesn't quite work, but Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. Woo! Let's talk about it. Okay, so Hollywood Brown. I just typed in Hollywood into my Pro Football Reference. Marquise Brown is 26 years old, turning 27 June 4th. He is a small, quick, twitchy, and fast wide receiver at 5'9", 180 pounds. He has one 1,000-yard season on his resume with 91 catches for 6 touchdowns in 2021 at 24 years old, the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. So just shove it into the gut. Just put that knife right into the absolute sternum of Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, with a former Raven going to the Chiefs. With the Cardinals, he didn't quite play all 17 games, but in 10 games in 2022, he had 67 catches for 709 yards and 3 touchdowns. In 2023, at 26 years old, he had 51 catches on 101 targets for 574 yards and 4 touchdowns. Last 2 years, a little bit less just because of health. He's dealt with some health things. He's dealt with some things off the field. But I love this fit. I love this signing. I predicted it to happen. And the reason why is because what the Chiefs have needed desperately, what the Chiefs have needed dearly, is a wide receiver that can run, that can stretch the defense, that can pull defenders vertically down the field. And that's exactly what Marquise Brown can do. He can bring a little bit of Tyreek Hill. He can bring a little bit of what they wanted Mecole Hardman to be. A speed receiver that can run a legit 4-3 and can play from the slot and burn people and get down the field. And, he's a little skinny. His frame isn't the biggest. He's not going to be somebody that's going to be catching 10 passes a game over the middle and taking contact. But what he's going to be able to do is he's going to get vertical on those concepts. He's going to be able to run deep routes effectively in a way that MVS hasn't been able to do, that Rashee Rice isn't able to do, that any of these receivers on the Chiefs are not able to do. He's able to get down the field in a flash and run those routes and set those defenders up for big gains. And he's going to be a chunk play specialist in this offense. I wouldn't be surprised if he had like 60 catches for 900 yards next year and 6 touchdowns. It's going to be a lot of, yards per reception in this offense, I think. And supporting him, he's going to be able to take some relief away from Travis Kelce, who's aging, and open up the middle of the field and the underneath areas of the field, because secondaries and safeties are going to have to respect Marquise Brown. It's going to open up those underneath crossing routes for Rashee Rice to work underneath. It's going to work the running back. Isaiah Pacheco is going to have more room to run. So it's going to allow defenses to, stay in those too high shells quite often, which is going to open up the run game for Pacheco. It's going to open up everything else, those short RPOs and screens for Andy Reid's offense. So, Marquise Brown has had an up and down career so far, but he's a great addition to this offense because Reid is better than most at finding ways to get receivers in open space. He's better than most at finding those one-on-ones that he's able to manipulate coverages and find good advantages for his receivers to take advantage of down the field. He's really good at finding receivers free releases in his offense, bunches, a lot of those stack formations, switch releases, motion. Like, he uses all those things. That's why he has a lot of quick and small receivers, because he's not really worried about those guys having to deal with contact. He's just able to get past that and use these guys' speed, which is what he did with Tyreek Hill for so many years. So, yeah, it's a huge addition, man. It's a huge addition. It's a game-breaking trade. Or not, signing. I was just talking about Keenan Allen. That was a trade. But he is 27, and he's coming off a couple years where he's been injured. So if you're a Chief fan, the only thing I think you could be concerned about, but it's a one-year deal. So, I mean, there's not a lot of downside here. It's a one-year deal, and it's at a position of need. And even if he gets hurt, okay, it is what it is. But it'll affect the team this year. It won't affect the team long term. It's a one-year deal. You're trying to win Super Bowls. You're trying to win Super Bowls. Hollywood is coming to KC. Watch out, Swifties, says Big Al. Love that. Keenan Allen went for a 4th-round pick. I explained why a little bit earlier. And I talked about Keenan Allen already. If you have any questions about that, let me know. I will answer. Zach the Potato says Brown will be hurt in a couple games. Wow, craziness. Usually things don't break this late. Like, it's like 10:40 on the East Coast. Singh is jealous. Holy smokes, bro. I guess L'Jarius Sneed is going to be somewhere else next year, you would think, right? All right. Let's finish this live stream up with the Devin White signing. I didn't get to talk about that yet. If you guys have questions about Keenan Allen or Marquise Brown, you can let me know. But I've talked about them in pretty good detail, I think. Yeah, I don't know what BR is doing. Nobody has texted me about that. So could the Packers sign Micah Hyde? It's possible, I guess. Deshaun says the Lions just got better on defense. Packers, please draft a center. Guys, if you've been enjoying the live stream, Gronk spiked the like button. Yes, the Packers need to just do more in general. They just need to do more. Okay, let's end with Devin White. Because I want to be able to upload these Hollywood and Keenan videos. All right. The Philadelphia Eagles have added speed to the second level. Devin White is now a Philadelphia Eagle, a linebacker that aided Tom Brady to his 7th Super Bowl championship with his clutch 2021 playoff performance. White adds attitude, aggression, confidence, and swagger to an Eagles defense that desperately needs it. We talked about how C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson did that and does that for the Eagles, but Devin White does the very same. 1 year, $7.5 million, worth up to $7.5 million. At 26 years old, he already turned 26. He's still very young. Devin White, 6 foot 237, an absolute madman on the football field. He has been very inconsistent the last couple of years, which is why, if you're wondering, the name is big. He was a former top 10 pick in the NFL draft. He was a phenomenal player for the Bucs for a good stretch there from about 2020 to through 2021. But he's had an up and down career so far. And a lot of it has stemmed from pass coverage. A lot of it has stemmed from sometimes effort, but also misdirection. Teams have been able to key on Devin White and take advantage of Devin White at times. But at his best, he's been one of the best linebackers in football. So you take the good with the bad, or you take the bad with the good if you're the Eagles here for Devin White, a team that desperately needed a linebacker that can run, that can pursue the football, and that can go sideline to sideline. In his career, he has been very good as a blitzer, and that will show up in his sack numbers. 2.5 sacks in his first season. In his second season, he had 9 sacks in 2020, which was probably his best season in the league, 140 tackles. His third season, he had 3.5 sacks, 5.5 sacks in 2022, and then 2.5 sacks in 2023. He had 2 picks this past season, which was the most of his career. 6 pass defense was his most of his career, and 83 tackles was the least of his career, mostly because of how much he actually played. At times, he's played really well. At times, he's been benched the last couple of years. This past season, though, he showed a pretty good passer rating in 65.5, according to Pro Football Reference, and has never had one that was below 110, so that's not terrible. During his career, though, he's played 91% of snaps, 100%, 95, 96, and 97% of snaps in the games that he was able to play and start. Former 5th overall selection in the 2019 NFL Draft, runs a low 4 floor. He is going to bring speed. He is going to bring an attitude to the Eagles. He is going to embody Eagle fan base like no other. CJ and Devin are going to bring back that in-your-face attitude that the Eagles desperately needed last playoffs and were desperately lacking last playoffs. So that's what I love about this signing. I also love the fact that it solves a key need in terms of flowing east-west, downhill, get after it linebacker. That's what I like about it. Now, Vic Fangio, you would also think if there's a coach that can help out his deficiencies and flaws, it would be Vic Fangio. Like maybe the fact that he's played in a defense that is as schemely, different and all over the place as Todd Bowles' defense with the amount of pressures that they bring and things like that. Perhaps at times that was maybe a little bit too much on the plate of Devin White, and they asked him to do a bit too much. But yeah, I mean, like, if there's a guy that can solve them, it's Vic Fangio. So in terms of his Pro Football Focus grading, I know that they've never been kind to Devin White. When we look at his numbers, my phone is going nuts. I don't really know why, but looking at the Devin White stuff, he had the 3rd most pressures in football at the linebacker position with 27. He had 6 quarterback hits, which was 3rd most in the league. And he had the one of the higher win percentages as a pass rusher, 2nd in the NFL. So he's a really good downhill blitzer and pass rusher. In terms of his run defense, we'll take a look at Devin White. He had 18 stops, but his grade, according to them, was very low. 3rd lowest in the NFL. That's bad. That means he's probably out of position quite a bit, which sometimes I don't know what to think about that, because sometimes that's of the the eye of the beholder. Sometimes that's a player trying to go above and beyond the scheme and try to make plays that he's being asked to make. And sometimes that's just a player playing poorly. So it's hard to tell. I would say with Devin White, it's more often been that he's been playing poorly, but I wouldn't say that's always 100% the case. He also graded 80th overall at the position, and they've never graded him well at the position, even when I thought personally he played well. So that's just a PFF thing, but he's still young and still moldable, and he'll have a chip on his shoulder coming to Philadelphia. The question is, will he fly with the Eagles? All right, do I want to do anything else? Is there any more breaking news? There are a few more signings I haven't talked about, but I could always do them tomorrow. They're not major. Bleacher Report has no producers staffed right now, so they can't do any live streams. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to release the Marquise Brown and Keenan Allen video. I might just put it in one video. Who knows? I mean, maybe two, but man, probably two. So make sure to check those videos out and give them a Gronk spike. Appreciate everybody tuning in. What a wild night here on the Bottom Line View. I'll be on Bleacher Report tomorrow morning with a favorite signings of free agency so far. So look out for that one. It's coming soon. Peace, guys. Thanks for watching.